Now check this out. This is deep. The New Testament, all this is forgotten now. We're taught that Christianity was a new revelation of truth, and its founders enlightened men and saints. Nothing could be farther from the truth. Ignorance is the soil in which religions grow, and Christianity is no exception. The New Testament itself calls the disciples unlearned and ignorant men, and the Jewish judges before whom their converts were brought pronounced them as idiots, or idiotai, from which we get the word idiots. Still later, they were called fools in Christ. The Samaritan doctor called them Thartacs, T-H-A-R-T-A-Cs, at their period, in the reign of Thartak. Thartak was a Kemetic god of credulity and vulgar faith. He was portrayed as a man with a book, a cloak, and the head of an ass. He appears in the Old Testament as Tartak, one of the foreign gods that Solomon worshipped. If then the leaders of Christianity were ignorant and credulous, what of the masses that follow them? According to Leakey, they were, in all intellectual virtues, lower than any other period in history of mankind. They were made up mostly of the poor and the obscure, who were drawn into embrace the Gospels by an inner need, and whose low position on the social scale was a standing ground of reproach against the new religion from the side of its adversaries. It is only the religion of simpletons, the ignoble, the senseless, the slaves, and the womenfolk and children whom they wish to persuade to join their congregation or to persuade. This is what Celsus said. Celsus said, the rude and the menial masses who had hitherto been almost beneath the notice of the Greek and the Roman culture flocked into Christianity. Okay? And Hodges on Celsus said, he disliked them for their poverty and ignorance. They seemed to be presumptuous and impertinent people who undertook to be the teachers, having never learned. I will not sit in the seat of synods while geese and cranes confusedly wrangle, St. Gregory said. The many had begun to play with psychic and spiritual forces let loose from the mysteries, and the many went mad for a time and have not yet regained their senses. They had a full share of tumult, anarchy, injustice, and war. The primitive Christians were men whose ardor was fierce in proportion to their ignorance. These are all the people talking about who the Christians were back then. All this the apologists smothered in lies, and now our deluded preachers, teachers, playwrights, and scenarists paint these early Christians as the inspired few, fighting and dying for some true faith, brand the really inspired so-called pagans as ignoramuses. Tacitus calls Christianity pernicious superstition. The new faith is a perverse and extravagant superstition. This is what Pliny the Elder had said. A superstition vain and fanatic, said Suetonius. Today, a still deluded race looks upon these statements as pagan opposition to the light of the world, where they were just but deluded people of our spiritual understandings. Thus, whatever the early Christians suffered, it was not, as the church asserts, because of the new gospel they preach, but because of the old absurdity they resurrected, belief in literal mythology. Okay, this is why the Christians were persecuted, because they were believing in literal mythology. Another Son of God, number 16, had appeared miraculously, conceived of the Virgin born. A third part of the Trinity walked about in Galilee. This was that blasphemy barbarously told. Porphyry had denounced, yet a band of fanatics called the Christians was actually demanding the restoration of this old religion, or this old fable. In other words, all of the Greek myths, all of the old Persian myths, they wanted to literalize it and say that God did walk the earth. And the people were telling them, listen, it's crazy. All the wisdom knowledge of the ages was burnt in the marketplace, in the light of the world, and triumphated, and the light of the world of reason. Let me get this right. All of the wisdom knowledge of the ages was burnt in the marketplace. The light of the world had triumphed, and the light of reason had died. That's sweet. I like that.